1. So at my job, they offer fundraising cards which have 20 coupons that give free items, and on the card it says that you can only use one at a time. However, the franchise owner allows us to accept 2 coupons at once, based on he's a nice guy. I had just gotten to work, and within 5 minutes, a lady drives up and steps out of a $100,000 Audi. She had ordered over the phone, and my coworker was new, so he told her to bring in her coupons and we would adjust the price. But he told her that she could only use 2 coupons at a time. She comes to the counter and says she is here to pick up for, let's say, Mandy. I pull her food out of the hotbox oven, and then she hands me 3 fundraiser coupons for a free medium pizza when you purchase a large pizza, a free garlic bread, and a free cinnamon bread. I then explain that we can only take 2 at a time, and if she wanted it, she would have to pay full price. Or I could remove it from her order and then trash it. She immediately becomes defensive, blaming it on the 15-year-old coworker that took her order, that he needs to be punished. I then again explain that I can just take the bread off and it would be no problem. She starts examining the coupons, which are very little tear-offs from the large fundraiser card, which explain the coupon policy even more conservative than I was willing to allow. She starts to proclaim that because the individual tabs don't say the coupon policy, that it is ridiculous that I am making this up. I ask her if she has the larger card, and of course she says no. After seeing that I am not willing to back down, I can't, as the owner can see my price adjustments and will see I took 3. She tells me to void the order, and I oblige with no sarcasm or rudeness. I never take any of these people and their insults personal. I tell her have a good day, and then she starts yelling that she didn't mean that I should void the whole order. Yes, she did, and she thought I wouldn't throw away her food. She starts insulting me. But by then I explain that she won't be getting any food from this location. She asks me if I am the manager and that she wants my personal cell phone number to send to corporate. Wanting to be done with the situation and knowing corporate is even more conservative, I write down my name and phone number and tell her to have a good day. She refused to leave, but then started calling my phone, which is in my pocket. I have an Apple Watch, so I can see that she is calling as my wrist is vibrating. After about 5 calls, I respectfully remind her that she asked for my phone number and showed her my phone watch ringing and her cell phone number across the screen. She gives me a sarcastic smile and ignores what I say. Knowing that she's being a dumb cunt, I just go back to sweeping the front half of the restaurant, and she just continues to call my phone, leaving me messages about how rude I am being. I go to the bathroom, and she somehow had got my coworker's attention, the 15-year-old, and starts interrogating him about why he would lie to her on the phone, and that we are the rudest people she has ever dealt with. I come up to the front and tell him to stop answering her questions and that she needs to leave. She then starts screaming at the top of her lungs, "You're lying and dishonest!" But then tells me to shut up and that she is talking after continually telling her to leave in a respectful tone. She keeps repeating that I am a liar and that she's going to get me fired. I finally have to tell her that I am going to call the police if she doesn't leave, and she then screams, "Do it!" over and over. By this time, about 20 minutes have passed and other customers are asking her to just leave. She then threatens my job again and walks out and drives to another location that just happens to have the owner working. She obviously lied to him and he calls me to see what happened with her in the background. I explain everything and he then turns to her and says, "Actually, ma'am, I'm only going to be able to let you use one of those coupons per the fundraiser card, and I have one right here to show you the policy." Still on the phone at the time, I hear a loud shriek from her that sounds like someone was being devoured by the swamp monster, followed by the owner telling her to get the fuck out of his store. Edit. Yes, guys, I understand that I shouldn't have given my number out, but it was a heat-of-the-moment mistake and I wanted her to GTFO as soon as possible. I don't intend to do anything devious with her number as, like I mentioned in the post, I don't take any of what customers do personally. 2. This happened a few years ago, out in the deserts of Arizona. Just to paint a little picture, I am a young hotshot corporal in the Marine Corps. I have the bulldog mentality and I'm all about malicious compliance. We just convoyed out to Yuma, Arizona, from the beautiful 29 Palms, California. If you've ever been to 29 Palms, you know this is not true. We take our entire battalion, some 900 guys, from one desert to another more inhospitable desert for 3 weeks in the middle of August. We're sleeping outside under cami nets and are using outdoor facilities the whole time. Loads of fun. One morning we're all getting up, pretty slowly I might add. There was a late-night training event the night before, and we were all done with. Not to mention, as soon as the sun looks over the mountains, it's easily 100 degrees outside. So we're hot, tired, and generally pissy. We have a Master Sergeant, who we'll just call Master Sergeant. That's a little out there. Dude has been in for a minute, and was just an all-around weird guy. I liked him and disliked him at the same time. Or as a saying we use a lot in the Corps, I like him as a person, but not as a Marine. So anyway, he's walking around kicking people's racks, telling them to get up and whatnot, even though days prior we had set up a night watch, and this was the same time those guys were supposed to be sleeping. Plus it was the coolest and they needed rest. So of course I opened my mouth and said something, Master Sergeant? Why are you waking them up? They're supposed to be asleep.
Excuse me, Corporal. You're right, why am I waking them up? You should be doing this as an NCO.
Non-commissioned officer. Well, Master Sergeant, the reasoning is, those guys have been awake all night. They're our night watch. You know the guys that you said you wanted to be up on watch in case something went down?
Who do you think you're talking to, Corporal?
This is where I should have watched my bearing, but I wasn't thinking clearly. I have since then chilled out. Master Sergeant, I'm talking to you. We've been having a conversation this whole time. You reply to my question. This was a bad move, especially when others are around to hear and start laughing, so of course I get my ass chewed out. Not a bad chewing, but enough. And as I should have received. After the chewing, I was put on the last fire watch. Fire watch is the term we use to mean late night watch. You have shifts and someone stays awake for a few hours and ensures Marines aren't doing dumb shit, or a fire doesn't start, or to be there to alert someone of an emergency, etc., etc. So boom, this means every morning at 0400 I am up watching everything and waking everyone up at 0530. Cool. Fuck me. Enter malicious compliance. When you're back on base, they have the Reveille call every morning at 0800. It's to signify the raising of the flag. They also have a song that goes with it. But as we're out here in the desert, we don't have that. And the way our Caminette Castle is set up, it's right next to everyone else in the battalion. So 5:30 hits on the dot, and I hit the switch that turns on these huge floodlights. I scream Reveille as loud as I can 3 times, which this light is right next to Master Sergeant, who's sleeping cozily in his cot. And after screaming Reveille, I proceeded to do the whole bugle call by mouth as loud as possible. I'm pretty good at it as well. I have it memorized note for note. I wasn't expecting the reactions from the Marines, as I thought all my buddies were in their cots crying from laughter, and everyone else was just like WTF. Semi-laughing, semi-pissed, and then I look over at Master Sergeant who's just staring at me. So pissed. He never said a word about it to me and told my sergeant to take me off that fire watch after 3rd day. I guess he didn't like being woke up like that. 3. Not me, but my best friend at the time, but I was involved. Heavily. I wish I wasn't. My friend will be A, I will be referred to as Tony, and the teacher will be Ms. T. This was in year 1, when we were around 5 or 6. The way our school worked is probably different than in other or American schools. We had one teacher that would do almost all subjects throughout all the years, usually not with music or French. This meant that our main teacher would also do phys ed. They usually didn't participate, but was there to make sure we were playing, behaving, and to keep a score. If we were playing a sport, that would keep track of a score. All students would get changed for PE in the classroom, from our school uniform to our school PE kit, until year 6, where all the guys got changed in the hall while the girls changed in the classroom, for obvious reasons. Anyways, we were all finished changing, and I just sat on the floor minding my own business, until my friend A suddenly pointed behind me and went, "Ew." I looked behind me and there was a shit on the floor, and the students and teacher were further away opposite to me, Conversation with teacher went something like this. Was that you who did that, Tony? No. Who was it then? I don't know. Don't lie, Tony. I swear it wasn't me. This goes on for quite some time. Eventually I gave up, because what was the point? She wasn't going to believe me, and I don't know who did it. So I didn't know what else to do. Arguing the truth wasn't getting anywhere, so I gave in. Fine, I did do it. Go to the bathroom and clean yourself up. Wipe my butt, if that was too vague. Fine. I went to the bathroom, but a teacher didn't come with me. I would like to mention that I have autism, and I don't know if it was me being awkward in general or if it was just a result of my autism. There was a wet floor sign in the way of the bathroom door. A normal person would have moved the wet floor sign, or at least step over it. But I just sat there, contemplating whether or not I should move the wet floor sign and risk getting in trouble. I've got into trouble for petty things before, one being for yelling at another student for throwing sand in my eyes, and I didn't. I just went outside and played whatever sport we were playing. What was the teacher gonna do, pull down my shorts to see if there was shit there? Besides, I didn't even need to wipe my butt because I didn't do it. Sorry that this is a bit long, but here's what happened. Apparently my friend A asked the teacher to go to the bathroom. She said no, which was common, as we were only allowed to go to the bathroom at break, dinner, or if it was an emergency. Well, since it was desperate enough for him to be discomforted, but not enough to be an emergency, he did the most reasonable course of action, shit on the floor, and blame his best friend and never tell him the truth. He never did tell me the truth. One day in year 7, 6 years later, I was remembering all the things that happened in primary school, that incident being one of them. It all made sense. He was sitting no less than a foot away from me as well. I confronted him about it, and he thought it was funny. I didn't. I was fuming. I do find it funny now. I haven't talked to him much in secondary school. He's always been getting into trouble, so I never see him. Kinda miss him, though. He did often tell lies, so it was like him to do that. And that's the story of the solving of a 6-year shit mystery finally solved. 4. I work at a small marketing firm. A couple weeks ago, we completed a migration of all of our file server data to our MSPs, that's Managed Services Provider for the uninitiated, i.e. a cloud host for all your data and applications, so you don't have to buy and maintain your own servers. Remote desktop environment, and I was making sure everyone had all their files from their local PCs copied out there as well, so they could access them within the RD environment. All was going exceptionally well until I got to the last person on my list, who we'll call Jay for now. I had intentionally left Jay for last, because she was notorious for having all of her work files on her PC. I am talking files from 5+ years ago related to clients we haven't done business with in over 3 years. This is after already having had one of her company laptops stolen a few years ago and losing all her data, which she then blamed me for not having backed up anywhere. At that time, I was not in a position to do much about it, as I was only a help desk tech then. However, I'm now the IT director, and basically when it comes to technology, what I say goes. Jay was not only getting migrated to the new environment, but she was also getting a new laptop at the same time because she's murder on laptops. She's a salesperson who goes through at least one laptop every year. So she came down to my office to get her new laptop, and she was talking to me about this migration and how she wasn't sure it was going to work and all this. She starts asking me about how she's going to access all her stuff, and I told her we were moving all her stuff to the server. She looked at me like she was ready to punch me in the face. I'm not doing that. I need my files on my PC. What if I'm on the road and I have no internet? Well, I understand that, but I'm going to put the files on the server. This is company policy, and if the files aren't on the server, I can't ensure they'll be backed up properly. If you know you're going to be on the road somewhere with lackluster internet, copy the files you need down to your PC temporarily, and put them back on the server when you get back to the office. Well, I don't want my files moved. Can I just keep them where they are? Keep them on your PC, where you won't be able to access them from within the RD, where all our applications exist now. Okay then. I don't want to put your 47 gigabytes of worthless files on the server anyway, so I didn't. Then I explained to her how to get her files outside of the new RD environment, knowing full well she wouldn't understand the first thing about any of this, because she's hard enough time turning her PC on. Literally, one of her complaints after coming back from vacation last week was that the power button on her new laptop is too hard to press to turn on. I then sent an email to my boss and her boss, telling them what I'd done, and how she'd fought me every step of the way on this migration process. 2 hours after I got off work, I get a text from her boss, who happens to be the president and part owner of the company.
I know you're off right now, but if you get a chance, can you help Jay out? She's having issues.
I told him I wasn't home. I was at my brother-in-law's house and I would be home in a couple of hours and could work with her then. Meanwhile, she'd been emailing me to complain about how she couldn't get any work done because none of her files were accessible from the server, and she'd needed me to copy them over. Not just the files she needed right then, but all of them, because I need everything at all times because I never know what I'll actually need and when. So I just have to have it all or it's worthless. I ran a last accessed date report out of PowerShell and found that about 95% of these files hadn't been touched since something like 2016. And because I didn't copy them before, nothing was working right and she couldn't get any work done. Well, I was busy that night, so I didn't get home till about 3 hours after that text from her boss. And by then she'd shut her computer off, so I couldn't do anything for her anyway. She then had to spend the next 3 days on the road without her precious files, which she actually had on her PC, but she couldn't figure out how to swap between environments to copy them over herself when she needed them, which only ended up putting her further behind and getting her in trouble with her boss for being behind in her work as well as disobeying company policy. 5. This was back when I worked as a complaint manager. Me and my co-workers answered people's complaints. Me is me, obviously. TL is team leader, direct supervisor. MGMT is management. So the story goes like this. One day I walk into the office, start the coffee machine, turn on my PC, all that stuff. I go get my coffee and do my usual morning email reading. I notice a mail from my TL telling me there's a meeting in 2 minutes in another room. Fuck. I grab my coffee and head for the meeting room. As I enter the meeting room, everyone on my team is already there, as well as my TL and a guy that's below management but above my TL, let's call him Joe. He asks if everyone is here, and my TL confirms.
So, as you may or may not be aware, TL's team is not quite measuring up. Management wants you each to step up your game to get more complaints done, answered, each day.
TL responds, how much more? The current target is 12 per 8 hours. That leaves 40 minutes for each complaint. 40 minutes isn't a whole lot to read, understand, investigate, solve any problems along the way, type an answer, and send it to the customer.
I understand you guys, but management is comparing your results to the other cities' results. All of their agents manage at least 16 per day. Their median is 18, so the new target is 18.
Is this a joke?
I'm afraid not.
And what if we don't deliver?
Management says that whoever can't deliver will be thanked for their work so far, but the company is always moving forward and needs people who can keep up with the tempo.
So what should we do? We can't hire more people, management won't allow it. And our programs keep crashing. We had a 6-hour downtime on our main program yesterday.
Management said they don't want to hear excuses, they need results.
Fine, understood. Quick note, I've never seen my team leader back away from something like that. He always stood up for us, even if it meant his own ass was on the line. But we can't manage 18, not even remotely.
Like I said,
you heard the man, OP, they want results. TL winks at me. Okay.
By the way, they also want you to do things by the procedure, no more shortcuts.
Fine. We go back to our office where TL declares we're having a second meeting to discuss this privately as a team. People start asking stuff like what the fuck are they thinking? Do I need to pack up now or in a week? Or how in the fuck's name do they expect us to do that, etc. MC starts here. Enough whining. You heard the messenger of the gods, they want results. A co-worker pipes up. How the fuck are we gonna do that? TL smirks and says, "Simple. From this moment onwards, you have full freedom to do as you please, as long as you reach the daily target of 18. I'll grant each of you access to all the applications, tech, finance, call recordings, administrative account access. You'll have full access to whatever you needed to ask other people to do." But the procedure calls for sending a request to a group, and then doing it and closing the request, after which we continue with our work. You are completely right, OP. But the procedure doesn't state that you mustn't have access to those applications. It also doesn't say that you can't make the changes needed and close the request yourself. Everyone begins to understand his plan. But even with that, I doubt we can top the other cities' results. After all, they are notorious for not reading the complaint and not following through with what they did and promised in the answer. They have so many repeated complaints. We barely get 1 or 2 per week. They get dozens. Did management say they care about repeated complaints? They don't care about quality, only about quantity. So we'll give them what they want. If needed, don't even read the complaint. Just reach that 18 per day, whatever it takes. And that is a direct order. What followed was the easiest few weeks of work ever. We gave management exactly what they wanted, more stuff done. And the procedure followed to a T. Around a month after that, we get a mail flagged as urgent from a woman in management. Let's call her Intolerable Bitch, or UB. That she wants to see us in the meeting room right away. We gather up and go to the meeting room. "What is this?" Pointing at some charts, yelling at TL. "Exactly what you asked for. I don't see a day where any agent has done less than 18. UB gets so red that I thought she was gonna collapse, and continues with the screaming. "No, they didn't, but look at your repeated complaints." "What do you mean? We have 10% less than the other city." "Yes, but it's more than 300% higher than it used to be." "Well, we are processing as much complaints per day, per agent, as the other city, with 10% less repeated complaints. I'd call our team a roaring success." "That's not what we asked for." "Joe, can you please put UB's email about our team on the projector?"
"Sure thing, TL."
Of course, her mail says nothing about the repeated complaints. "That's the email you sent to Joe. Pardon us, but we did exactly what you wanted us to." "Well, your team needs to keep the repeated complaints down so the statistic works out." "Sure thing. Restore our old target and we'll deliver that." "But we need the complaints answered." "We've been doing that for the last month or so." "And the repeated complaint rate needs to be lower too." "No problem. Hire about 10 more people and we'll let you know if it's enough, or we need more." "The company can't afford to waste money on office workers. We need to invest." "Oh, so that's the case. How about someone from management comes to our team and helps us out? I'm sure that you're all skilled enough to perform as well as 2 or 3 people in the same time." Right now you have 3 options. First option is keeping the repeated complaint rate low. But if you keep the quality high, the quantity will be lower. So we need our old target back. Second option is us pulling the new target, but gaining quantity. You will lose quality, so don't bother us with the repeated complaint rate. The third option is to get more manpower so we can access more at the same quality, but it's going to cost more. There is no other option. I respect that it is a difficult decision to make, so you can discuss it with other members of management and let me and my team know how to proceed. Until then, we are getting back to work. We continued to hammer away at 18 a day until I left the company for a better paid and less requiring job. I never heard from UB. Maybe she let them know after I left. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to a video. Revenge is marshmallows, ice cream. There we go. Revenge is ice cream. Number 19. Lovely. There we go. Well, hopefully this weekend, as you're listening to this, I will be decorating. I won't be holding my breath, but we'll see what happens. I did get groceries delivered this week so that I wouldn't have to leave the house, so I could just stay and get focused on that. My plan is to stick something on, maybe if I can find an episode of Big Fat Quiz or QI or something, just to keep me company. If not, I've got a few audiobooks. I just got Bruce Springsteen's one, got that from Audible. They keep sending you emails that say, oh, you've got like 24 credits, use them all on this. I'm like, well, I got them to do me the year, so how about I don't use them all on that and I just wait till I find books that I want? So far this year, there's actually only 2 books that I know of. 2 books that I know of coming out that I definitely want. There is the 4th, I think it's the 4th, Warlock Holmes book. Can't remember the title, but it'll definitely be a play on a Sherlock Holmes title. I believe that's out in May. And there might be another, I think it should be book 6 of the Anno Dracula series. I keep recommending you guys check them out because they're awesome. Book 6 should be out, I think it's Anno Dracula 1999. That should be out October, it's currently scheduled for. So I can't pre-order either of those yet. Well, I think you can pre-order the actual books, but I want the audiobooks. And they'll hopefully be out with their usual narrators throughout the year. And I'm hoping, not expecting, but I'm hoping for another book by Stephen Fry this year. Because in 2017 he did a book called Mythos, or Mythos, depending on how you want to pronounce it. Mythos, I kind of go back and forth, to be honest with you. And then in 2018, right about the same time, he released another book called Heroes. And I've got a feeling there might be a 3rd book focusing on the Trojan War that kind of wraps up that whole story, because I know he did a stage thing that ultimately was split into 3 parts that focused on those 3 things. And he did mention the Trojan War quite a bit, without going into too much detail in his last book, so I think he might have been saving that for a 3rd book. So hopefully that'll be out this year, if not this year, maybe next year. And, oh, okay, so that's enough rambling, I think. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.